Ladies and gents, boys and girls, Monday, April the 17th, 2023. Hope you're all doing well. Chris Phillips here, your host of the Daily Crow of the Spurs Up Show. Appreciate you all tuning in. We have got a lot to dive into today. Very excited to take your questions, your comments, and your calls at 843-790-3377. Guys, the phone lines are open. I see Anthony Burton, Jeremy Travie, John Edward, G.A., Braddock, Brendan, Ethan, Alex. My guy, Bruin Nation, with the first comment of the day. What's going on? Also, those in the Big Cock Club Discord over the TDC Questions channel, the TDC Questions channel, to be sure your questions are answered there. Again, guys, really excited to chat with you all here on this Monday. Again, tons to get into, to react to, from the spring game to the Yardcocks to everything in between, and cannot wait to get into it all with you all that are tuned in. Cannot wait to hear from you. Guys, of course, as always, TDC is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Head over to prizepicks.com or download the Prize Picks app. When you do, use that promo code TSUS to receive a 100% deposit match up to $100. That's our friends at Prize Picks. Let's go ahead and jump to the phone lines.
Robbie Davis, Zaxby's Hall of Famer.
Robbie Davis, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic on this Monday. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I can tell you're excited. I couldn't even get through the ad read without you calling in first. So I love it, man. I love it. Phone lines ringing off the hook.
Sorry,
I love that.
I muted it right before you did the ad read. Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. You're good, man. Great way to start off the show. What's up?
But first of all, I had a blast. Okay, it was fantastic.
Yeah, you were there. You were there in person, right?
Okay.
You were there in person. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. How was it?
Yeah, and I didn't get there early enough to brag about the shirt and tell them where they could get it, because me and Marion R didn't get there until about 13 minutes or so before the game started.
Okay.
So I wasn't able to but I will make sure when I go to a game this year, I will make sure that I'm wearing that shirt, and I'll tell them where they can get it. Okay. So just letting you know that now.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
And anyways, let's get to the meat and taters of the convo, because my brother's going to be here at about 12:30. So I wanted to go ahead and get my phone call in. Just solely judging off of what I saw. I mean, yeah, you can't really take much from a spring game, obviously, but I absolutely I loved what I saw from Lenora Sellers. Okay, he ran when he had to. Whenever he had to run, he got what he could and got out of bounds. He didn't take no unnecessary hits. Kind of reminded me of Connor Shaw a little bit.
Right.
And to be honest, if I saw a dude the size of Lenora Sellers coming after me, I would probably try to tackle him at his legs, but I would probably not be able to get him down, because he's like he's over 6 foot, and I think he's 250, somewhere around there.
I'd have to
football player that.
Yeah, I'd have to look up his measurables. But he's a big kid for sure. He's a big kid.
He's a pretty big fella. Okay, so you're gonna have to
6'3",
your entire
232
body to take him down.
6'3", 232.
So he's almost 250.
He's a big dude. Yeah.
So you're gonna have to use your entire body to take him down, and arm tackle is not gonna take him down. Okay, and it might have been it was an incomplete pass, but that pass that he threw, that was a dime. Aside from it being out of bounds, he put that ball exactly where he needed to. The only thing that didn't happen is the receiver didn't come down with it in bounds. And I would be shocked if Lenora Sellers is not QB2 going into the season.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people would agree with you, Robbie. I think a lot of people would.
But we still have a long way to go. A lot can change, but I would not be surprised if Lenora Sellers was QB2 going into September. At all. And I wouldn't be surprised if a couple of QBs went to the portal. I mean, if that happens, I wish them well. Best of luck. And I saw Joyner up close. That dude has put on some weight.
Okay? You saw who up close, you said?
He is not. We were sitting pretty close to the field, and I saw Joyner. He has definitely put on some muscle. His arms are a lot bigger than they were whenever he first got here. He looks like a running back. And I know his main position is not running back, but he looks like a running back, and he was running like a running back anytime he had the football. I'm really curious to see how we use him at the running back position this year, if he winds up getting any playing time. But he's already proven that whenever he's got the ball in his hands, he is an absolute weapon. And Knox from Arkansas, that's a big dude. Me and Mary and I were talking about it, and we were like, that dude's going to be a problem for SEC defenses. So if you cut, and here's the problem and it's a good problem to have, because if you double Knox, you're going to leave Juice open, and if you double Juice, you're going to probably leave Knox open, and so that's a double whammy. That's a cover at your own risk kind of situation.
Right.
So. And I really didn't take nothing away from the defense, because, you can't really tell anything really about your defense in a spring game. We'll see what they're truly made of come September 2nd and really see what they're made of in week 3 of the season whenever we travel to Athens.
Mm-hmm.
So.
For sure. Yeah. I think all well said and great points, my friend. No doubt.
But like I always say, just sit back and let Beamer do what he's getting paid to do, and that is build a winning program. And he is, and he's doing that. And if we play the entire season the way we played the last 2 weeks of the season last year, we will give some teams some fits. They will have nightmares about having to play South Carolina.
I would agree. So, yeah, it was a success.
I wanted to make a sign. Last thing, and I'll get off here. I wanted to make a sign that said, "Dallo Loggins, I'm ready for my vanilla ice cream," and I was going to put like a big old spoon and a bowl of vanilla ice cream on the sign, but I didn't do it. But I'll probably do it when I go to a game this season. I'll make a sign that says, "I'm ready for my vanilla ice cream."
I love that. You definitely should.
So, but and it was a bummer for the baseball team to lose yesterday. That was a real bummer. It's just we didn't capitalize when we needed to and gave up hits. So we just got to brush it off, and the baseball team just got to keep moving forward. So.
Yeah, I think we'll be fine. I think we'll be fine for sure. It's baseball. It happens.
We'll be okay.
Yeah, we'll be fine. So one bad weekend for a good team is all it really is. So gotta clean up the defense. Got to clean up the defense.
It just wasn't our weekend this past weekend as far as baseball goes. But I think like you said, we'll be all right. So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and get over here. And I might miss the rest of the show because I'm going somewhere with my younger brother. I wanted to call before he got here. So.
Right. For sure. Well, Robbie, I appreciate you, man.
So,
glad to hear you guys had a good time, and y'all have a great week.
It was fantastic.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Thank you, buddy. You too.
Yeah, man. Take care. Great stuff from Robbie Davis as always. We now know Robbie Davis's full thoughts on the spring game, and I tell you what, I'm gonna buy Robbie. And I say this out of love for Robbie Davis. I'm going to buy Robbie Davis a microphone and an interface so he can do his own podcast, because that man has got thoughts that need to hit the airwaves. And I'm sure many of you would tune into it. I don't want to speak for our audience, but I'm sure many of you would tune into it. Anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. I mean, tons to talk about from the spring game. I mean, where do y'all really want to begin? Blake Hastings says, got a picture with Cam Pringle at the game. The dude is huge. Bruin Nation says, I told everyone back in December, if given the opportunity, Sellers would be QB2, and he was already better than the rest besides Rattler, in my opinion. And a lot of people said I was crazy. Bruin Nation, did you hear me shout you out on the podcast today, by the way? Because I knew you had a fun night. I knew you had a fun night with what LaNorris Sellers did. I see all the LaNorris Sellers comments, and I guess we can start there. And when you talk the quarterback positioning, guys, let me first say, episode 776 of the podcast did drop this morning, a full breakdown of the spring game and all my takeaways and thoughts and everything we saw. And I mentioned this on the pod, but it's so funny, right, that people will tell you that the spring game doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. You can't draw conclusions. But I had a page full of takeaways. I mean, I had a page full of thoughts and takeaways and things I saw in the game. So it's funny. For the diehard, every snap matters. Every snap matters. By the way, I want to shout out my guy that is tuned in. My guy, I appreciate you, my guy. But no, LaNorris Sellers, man, it was absolutely incredible seeing him. And I think, you know, when it comes to LaNorris Sellers, the good news is this: QB2 is not going to have to play this year. And I'm also reserved in the sense of saying that we're going to see a lot of Sellers. You know, I saw a bunch of tweets. Sellers is going to help this football team this year. And he may. But I also had the same thoughts last year that we were going to see Tanner Bailey and Braden Davis at some point as true freshmen. They were going to get out there and mop up duty, and we never saw it. So I'm a little bit hesitant to say that we're going to see a lot of LaNorris Sellers, but my goodness, did we get a glimpse of what the future holds, and this kid could be really, really special. Certainly has that raw talent and ability. Let's jump back to the phone lines here.
Call from
Brian Bennett.
Brian, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Sure, want to get some opinions from you about baseball and football real quick.
Yeah, man.
About my question. Real quick, do you think Braswell has earned the right to start for here on out?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be a really interesting when McGillis comes back, right? That's going to be really interesting just how they handle that, because Braswell, certainly, I love what he's done. I mean, he's a gamer, right? He's a gamer. He may not have impressed the most in practice or what have you, but it's just really hard to take him out of the lineup. So I think the balancing act of what do you do with LeCroy? I mean, listen, he had a bad weekend. 5 errors on the weekend for Talmadge LeCroy, but I'm not mailing it in on LeCroy. I don't think he should never play again. I mean, he's one of your dudes. So, you know, will Michael Braswell be an everyday guy when McGillis gets back? I'm not exactly sure. I doubt it, honestly. But I think he's certainly somebody that they're going to continue to play. But it's just all about, do you move LeCroy maybe to DH, or do you shuffle different guys around? Where does he go, right? I mean, it's a great position to be in. You got a bunch of quality players, and you're looking for spots for them. But, you know, listen, if LeCroy continues to struggle defensively, I think it makes sense to put Braswell at third and operate that way. But, yeah, going to be really interesting to see how they handle that.
Yeah, I just don't want to get deep, baseball, because I'm a big fan of it. Like, that lineup has got to click and gel. And
yeah,
if you continue to move pieces, it will never click the way it needs to click. And we're hot right now. But,
yeah,
as well as anybody else, that baseball, you can cool down, so you got to find a way to manifest the win when that cool down comes and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I was thinking with Braswell, earn a guaranteed spot to be in lineup as often, since he's producing at the plate.
Yeah,
big time.
No, for sure. And I think adding McGillis back will only help this lineup. I mean, I know he's been out a while, but he was one of your he's one of your dudes again. So I will say, I think Braswell needs to continue to be a part of the lineup. I mean, the dude's clutch. He just, like I said, he's a gamer, man. He has that it factor we talk about. He loves the game, and maybe he wasn't the most impressive in the fall, the spring, whatever, but yeah, I mean, I think definitely Braswell's a big part of this ball club and needs to continue to see at bats and see the field and help this team win games.
Yeah. And second, first of all, let me say that I don't want no Gamecock coming after me. I'm a biggest Gamecock fan. But I know when you talk about Luke Doty, they try to attack you and stuff like that because he's a through-and-through Gamecock. But, man, this is year 3. Yeah. And every spring game I have watched, he looks nervous. He don't have touch on the ball. Can we move past the fact that Luke Doty is not even the second best option at QB right now? I think he needs to move to slot, or like you said a few months ago, possibly transfer and go closer to Atlanta. Have a good, solid 3 years there, and just be a guy for them. But right now, man, I don't see him as an SC quarterback. I don't know if there's a mental going on, but I just don't see it. I mean, I think he's proven now that, hey, you haven't progressed now. It just may not be at this level.
Yeah, you know what's funny, my friend? I talked about this today in the podcast, and, I said that it was and I labeled it as a spring game hot take or a spring game overreaction. But reading the comments and listening to fans like yourself, and the majority, I don't think it really is that much of a hot take. I'm not sure you guys would label it as such, because I think most of this fan base has simply put just sold their stock on the idea that Luke Doty could ever lead this football program at the quarterback position. And I my hot take, quote unquote, or my overreaction to the spring game is I tend to be right there with you. I was one of Luke Doty's biggest defenders, and he's a friend of the show, by the way, and you have to preface it seems like, in college sports, because everybody takes things so personally. But, we all love Luke Doty. We're glad he's a Gamecock. He's a Gamecock through and through, just like a DeCarrion Joyner, for example. But he's not your starting quarterback. Yeah. And he's just not, from what we've seen on the field, it doesn't look like he's ever really going to be that guy. And I know it's a spring game, and I understand it's a makeshift offensive line, and which receivers is he throwing to, and what defenses. He's wearing a green jersey, right? Like, I understand all of the variables, but he looked so terrible on Saturday night. And I was shocked how poor he looked. And again, my hot take or overreaction, if you will, like you just mentioned, I just don't see how he's QB2 entering the fall. Like, when you have a guy with the upside and the talent like a Lenoris Sellers, when you have a guy even like a Tanner Bailey, who I thought looked solid in the game. Like, I just don't see how Luke Doty, I know he has experience, but who gives a damn? Like really, truly, who gives a damn? So I don't see how he's QB2 into the fall. It's no knock on the kid, but I think if he ever wants to play and make a contribution for the Gamecocks, it's probably not going to be at the quarterback position. As much I hate to say that, I think it's true.
Yeah. And like I said, I agree with you. Like, even Bailey, like, his pocket awareness was so much better. Even the break, it was a vanilla offense, but even the breakdown, okay, a guy was open in the middle, but he's seen juice wide open. Okay, I'm going to that option right there. Like, it was just quick decisions was being made by Bailey in comparison to Doty. And I understand Doty is the people's champ. Nothing wrong with being the people's champ. But for this program, I just don't think he's a QB2, and he's a great kid. And I don't know. I'm a fan of the game, and I just feel like at this point, hey, maybe Beamer sit him down and say, hey, look, man, we love you, want to be a part of the program. Yeah. We're going to put you more in the DeCarrion mode and just let you try slot position and see can you thrive there, because we want you on the field because you're an athlete. But this quarterback, I don't see you getting any playing time, even if something was happening. Lord forbid, knock on wood, having a Rattler. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't see you being that guy that can lead us.
Like you mentioned, man, there's one thing about being the people's champ, and there's another thing about winning football games. And I don't give a damn how well liked you are. You're the people's champ. Everybody in Myrtle Beach touts this guy as he's going to win the Heisman Trophy. I don't see it, man. I just simply put don't see it. And, like, again, I've been one of Doty's biggest defenders. I'm not saying that he was thrown out there in a regular game. Maybe he'd do some nice things, but, like, my God, that spring game, and I think you maybe saw a guy that's pressing a little bit because he knows a true freshman's on his heels and potentially about to steal his job. So, maybe Doty stays QB2. The beautiful thing is I don't think it's much going to matter because, knock on wood, again, Spencer Rattler ain't getting hurt, and he's going to play the entire year, and who gets mop-up duty, I don't know that it even really matters. But, looking ahead, next year this time, we'll be having a conversation about the quarterback battle and who's leading, and I'll be stunned if it's Luke Doty. I will be stunned, and that's not a knock on him as a person. Like, the fact you have to preface that to college fans is weird to me, but it's not a knock on him as a person or a Gamecock, but, like, watching what we watched on Saturday night, I know it's a spring game, don't draw conclusions, but he looked terrible. He looked abysmal. He looked like the freshman to me. He looked like the freshman.
In competition breeds success, and Beamer's doing a great job. Saying, look, I'm bringing I'm not bringing 2-star quarterbacks in. I'm bringing 4 or 5-star guys in. They're gonna make your guys compete and see who gonna get the job. And you got even a quarterback coming next year, Reno. Like it's gonna be a lot of quarterbacks that got a decision to make. Hey, do I stay and try to win, or do I leave and try to go somewhere and fit and get some playing time? Because right now it don't seem too promising for a couple guys on the roster at QB.
Yeah, I mean, I would be, again, I'd just be flat out stunned. You know, people try to ask me all the time, who specifically is going to enter the portal? And that is too difficult to, you know, make a prediction, if you will, because you have no idea what's going through guys' minds, what they want to do, you know, what their end goal is. But yeah, I mean, to your point, man, Dante Reno comes in next year. I mean, the quarterback room's so crowded, and they're going to sit down and they're going to have conversations with these players all week this week. And I'm sure Shane Beamer and Dowell Loggins and the offensive staff, they're going to have some very real convos and saying, hey, this is where you sit on the depth chart. You're not going to play. Like, you're going to be on scout team. And I know being an SEC football player, like speaking on Luke Doty, and I'm sure there's some Gamecocks out there that will just adamantly disagree with this and will throw hate my way. But I just don't understand guys who just want to sit the bench. I don't get it, man, because you know what? I've been a college athlete, and I sat the bench before, and it sucks. And I don't give a damn if you're at South Carolina or if you're at Newberry. I don't give a damn how much merch you get. I don't give a damn you go to a $70 million facility or whatever. I don't care. Doing all that work, waking up for those workouts, doing all those practices, and getting none of the glory, not even getting to play. You get a couple Instagram followers because you're a Gamecock. Who gives a shit? Like, you don't get to play. Why would you want to do that? Like, I'm not encouraging people to transfer, but like, I just can't understand a guy who wants to be QB5. I don't get it. I don't know why you'd want to do it. Exactly. I guess if you're banking on the future, so be it. But like, I don't know, man. I don't see the glory in sitting the bench. I just don't see it. So there'll be a lot of guys with decisions to make. And that's why I think fans should also, if a guy hits the portal, like, don't blame him. Like, there's no glory in sitting the bench. There's none. So if a guy like Colton Gauthier or Braden Davis, if they're quarterback 4 or 5 and they want to go, like, I hope they go somewhere they get to play and at least enjoy your college experience. Like, because there's nothing worse than being a highly touted 4-star prospect, coming to school, being a dud, sitting for 4 years, and your career's over. And you did nothing. Like, I don't know, man. Maybe it's easy to speak from my perspective because you don't have that decision to make, right? We're just sitting over here just talking about it. But I don't know, man. I can't wrap my brain around wanting to just ride the pine for 4 or 5 years.
And last but not least, do you think because of the uncertainty at running back position, I know we're probably going to hit the portal because Shane was very good at the portal finding a guy out there, but do you think that we're going to be like our path going to set up our run game, like have a spread thing and let people like Juice Dow get in space and, you know, and go for like 20 yards, you know, stretch runs and stuff like that? Because I like the guy from Newberry. He's a bruiser, but I don't think he's an every down back. Right. But I think it's gonna be a situation where we do a lot of stretch runs as opposed to run up the tackles and stuff like that. What do you think?
I think right now at the running back position, because you mentioned Mario Anderson from Newberry, you know, what Dakereon Joyner did. I thought both guys flashed. You know, Juju McDowell and what he does. I think right now, and I don't even mean this disrespectfully, but an honest evaluation of that position, we've got a lot of supporting cast running backs right now. We got a bunch of RB2s, but I don't see an RB1. Yeah. And so I think you will see them be active in the portal, as we've all predicted for many, many weeks and months now. Even just for competition purposes. Hey, if Mario Anderson or Dakereon Joyner ends up winning the job, fantastic. That's great. But make them win the job against a guy who's actually a proven Power 5 ball carrier. I'm not saying that if you go in the season right now with this group that, you know, you won't be okay, but you need better than okay. Because I do agree with you. I think this offense right now is going to be pass heavy. If this team leaned on the run, that would be, to me, the most shocking thing about this football team after the 2023 season. So go out in the portal, find a proven Power 5 ball carrier who I think can shoulder the load of being RB1. And then you've got these other supporting cast of characters, if you will, that are exactly that. They're kind of role players, RB2s, you know, nice complementary pieces. But I just don't think you have an RB1 on this roster right now. I could be wrong, but if for nothing else, like I mentioned, depth and competition, I think you need to be active in the portal. And hey, maybe a Dontavius Braswell, the true freshman, maybe he plays a role. Maybe they don't go to the portal because they know more than we do that he's going to be a factor immediately. But barring that, I definitely think you need to hammer the portal, and I expect them to be active.
All right. Nope. Man, appreciate the conversation, man. If you got time today, come check out Evans High School versus North Augusta Boys Baseball today at 6 o'clock.
Love that. North Augusta Evans. Where's it at? North Augusta or at Evans?
It's at North Augusta. Yeah, I'll be my son play for Evans. And
Okay.
There, man, I'll give you a shout out.
I love it, man. I love it. Yeah, hey, y'all have a good time, and I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for the call. Great stuff.
No problem.
Yeah, man. Bye. Take care. Great stuff there. That was a great call. Again, 843-790-337. 848-337. Greg Bedinger, isn't Doty on full scholarship? That's worth $60,000 to $80,000 over 4 years. I understand what you're saying, though. Greg, you can transfer and find a scholarship somewhere. It's possible. It's possible. But anyways. All right, let's jump to the phone lines here.
Call from
Will from Dirty Myrtle.
Will, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
Good, man. Great. How about you?
I'm doing well, man. I'm starting to rethink, my comments on Luke Doty. I feel like the people in Myrtle Beach might throw eggs at me for all my next week for all my comments on the Luke Doty stuff. So I might want to pipe down a little bit and save all that commentary for after next Thursday.
No, I mean, he is very loved here, man. I mean, and he's a Gamecock, man. I mean, you got to give him that. He took it out when he could have left and then probably played somewhere, maybe at a lower level, but. I mean, I agree. I was at the spring game first off, man. I took my daughter. She just turned 3, and she absolutely loved it. Had a great time. Unofficially, 51,000 people is what I'm hearing. That's a record, correct?
Kudos to Gamecocks football for understanding the assignment, whether there really was or there really wasn't 51,000 after the arch rival put 50,000. Why on God's green earth would you not put 51,000? So either way, though, whether you want to say it was 100,000, right? It was a great crowd. It was a great turnout. Gamecock Nation showed up and showed out. And so everybody who was there, pat yourself on the back, man. It looked like it was a great environment.
Spencer looked great. He looked like he knew what was going on with everything. I know it's somewhat of a new offense. It looked somewhat clean for being a spring game. Just impressed with that part of the Lenore Sellers. Didn't have a whole lot of plays out there, but man, it just you just see it. I mean, the kid's special, man. He's going to be a player for us, and I think it might be sooner than later. It might be as soon as next year. So yeah, Luke is kind of out on that. Tanner looked good. Just to switch bases real quick, the baseball game. I mean, I was so damn frustrated watching that game yesterday. I texted you. I don't know if you saw what I texted you, but I texted about God turned into the damn pitch. I think it was the second or the third inning. He obviously turned into the pitch, and we didn't review that. And that's when the ball started rolling for them. Everything, the momentum went their way. We've had multiple outs called back on I think Cass had 2, where he just went into the pitch, and it was not nearly as obvious as that was. And I just want to get your take on that about Kingston. Not that we're going to hang him out of dry. We're having a great season, but the decision to not challenge that when it looked so obvious. Why do you think that was?
That's a great question, my friend. That is a great question. I feel like there was definitely some home cooking all weekend long for the Vanderbilt Commodores. And I'm not saying umpires the reason you lost. They're certainly not. There are many other reasons why you did not take the series, but that was certainly one that was questionable. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I wish I
was lost
knew.
on that. I was like, you figure that somebody would be like, hey man, you might want to
take a gander,
you
right?
You could see Becker even did the motion like, dude, he turned into it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and it just, I don't know. Sometimes it's little things like that to get the momentum going for the other team. And,
right.
and I think that kind of was and on another note, Petrie, I mean, my God, man. I mean, every game.
The best freshman this program's ever seen. And I'm a Justin Smoke guy, dude. And he's still my all-time favorite Gamecock. But, I mean, my goodness, when you look at the numbers, 17 homers over 66 games for Smoke, 18 homers over 36 games for Petrie. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And, I mean, you think about the bats Smoke was using versus the bats that Petrie's using. I mean, it's unreal. You put an orange Stealth or the white Stealth, I think is what he was using in his hand and Petrie's hand. My God, he's probably got 25. I mean, it's crazy, man, to see what he's doing. It's crazy.
It's just lovely to watch. I mean, he's got to be in the discussion for, not freshman of the year, for player of the year at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly.
He's got to be in the discussion for Golden Spikes for sure. I mean, that's a competitive, very competitive award, but he's got to be up there. And he'll definitely – he should win freshman of the year. I know the kid from Georgia who I forget his name right now, but
Yeah,
the kid from
Condon or
Georgia,
whatever.
Condon, he's
Condon,
raking.
I
I mean,
think,
he's raking. Don't get me wrong, but I would say that Petrie certainly, I would vouch for him to get that award.
I think this is a humongous, maybe the biggest series we have this weekend, man, because Florida is basically a lot like we are with hitting it out of the park. I don't know a whole lot about their pitching. I don't think it's quite as good as ours, but it's just a really, really big, because, I mean, we're trying to position ourselves to get one of those top national seeds, and Florida's right there with us. So it's like, you know, we just lost to Vanderbilt, and I don't think Vanderbilt's a very, you know, small ball team, man, and it's hard to beat when they're playing right. I mean, we're a little bit, we're not like 2021 USC, but we rely a lot on the big stick.
Yeah.
And that's fine, you know, but this series, I think, is, you know, will tell us a lot about who we are going forward if we can bounce back from that and get at least 2 out of 3 at home this weekend.
Yeah, this weekend's big for sure, and I know we'll break it. You know, I'll break it down more and dive into it after tomorrow. Still got a midweek, of course, against Charleston Southern, but no, it's a huge weekend, man. I mean, it's a huge weekend. I think just, you know, for the purposes of bouncing back and not letting, you know, a negative occurrence become a trend, if you will, right? You lose 2 of 3 again or worse, and I think fans are really going to start hitting the panic button, which that was just hilarious to watch. I mean, there's so many people. I'm really not like deterred on this Monday. I mean, it sucks to lose for sure, but I mean, it happens, dude. Like we were not going to go through this season without losing a SEC series. I know we like to think so, and it was a lot of fun, but we weren't, dude. The SEC is just too good. And so you go on the road to Vandy. It sucks because it was self-inflicted, it felt like. It was self-inflicted with all the errors, but you also have to tip the cap to Vandy's pitching staff, who just shut you down after that first inning on Saturday.
They were good,
that bullpen was phenomenal. I mean, and we knew that they have one of the best bullpens and one of the best pitching staffs in the SEC. And, I mean, again, being on the road, they get some favorable calls, and it turned out to be their weekend, which sucks because you won that first game and you were in such a great position to take the series. But you know, it is what it is. You lose 2 of 3 on the road to a team in the top 5. I mean, my goodness, you know, they're worst results that could happen.
Defense,
More
than anything, the defense killed us, man. I mean, we had way too many errors, and then I heard you touch on it earlier, but Lee Croy, you know, he's good. He's a great hitter for us, man. He gets on base a lot, but that third base is, you know, it's hurt us a couple of times now.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can get that shirt up. And yeah, man. And then one other thing, do you know who has the most home runs in a single season? How much is that? What is the record? Do you know what that is?
I'm not exactly sure what the record is. I mean, I could spitball it, but I don't want to do that. So
is it mid-20s though? Like
I'd assume, yeah.
I think it's something like that.
I think so. Yes, I think so.
Okay, so Pat Pritchard's got a chance at that. I mean, he could touch that. But anyway, I'll jump off here, Chris, and talk to you later, buddy.
Hey, I appreciate you, man. Great stuff. Thank you so much for the call.
Yeah.
Will from Dirty Myrtle. Always great stuff. I'm actually trying to find statistics here because I want to his point, right? To his point about the defense. Where are the fielding? Oh, here we go. This is through yesterday, I believe. I believe it's through yesterday. We'll get into it in a second. I got the stats pulled up there. We'll jump back to the phone lines here.
Call from.
Hold on.
Hunter, what's going on? How are you?
Hey, is it? No, I was playing. I was just trying to work on my Spanish there.
Got you. What's up?
So what's going on with the run game? I know the run. I know you see me in the chat and all shit about the run game and everything, but it just seems like they did like worse than last year. Like I'm not even. I feel like I'm not even over exaggerating.
Yeah, no, I mean there was no run push Saturday night, and I would just say this though, Hunter. I mean it's really hard to. I think it's just hard to judge and evaluate the offensive line in a spring game because it's so makeshift. There's so many combinations of different guys playing. Like you're never in a position where you have your best starting 5 out there. So I mean, listen, and I say this, Hunter. If you ran for 300 yards, well, then it'd be, you know, is the run defense terrible? So it's just really hard to evaluate. It doesn't really change my thoughts on what I think the run game will be this year, which is not great. I think we're going to be a pass-heavy offense, probably 70-30 pass to run, if I had to guess. I'm sure they'll try to be more balanced, probably 60-40, I should say. They'll try to be more balanced, but I don't expect this to be a team that runs it down teams' throats necessarily. So, but I mean, again, really hard to evaluate just because you never had your best five on the field. So it just really, really tough with a makeshift O-line to evaluate. Certainly getting a run push. I mean, that's going to be a huge question mark going into the season.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, it's kind of hard to tell why, our run game was, like, kind of a little bit awful. I'm not trying to, talk shit about them or anything, but I get it because they're freshmen and all. And I just can't tell if, like, because our defense is good and, they're stopping the run and everything, which is great. But, that's one of the main reasons it's hard to tell, who's doing good and who's not doing good because it's spring game. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, that's the tough thing about a spring game, Hunter. And I think that's why you really have to go into it with taking everything with a grain of salt, right? Because it's like you mentioned, right? Well, is the defense good if the offense does well? Is the offense, vice versa? I mean, it's just so tough to evaluate in that matter. So,
right.
I don't know. You can't draw any conclusions. That's the bottom line.
Right. That's all I needed. Just hoping we'll do good this year.
Yeah, man. Hey, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for the call, Hunter. Great stuff.
No problem, man.
Take care. Great stuff from Hunter Kelly. Let's see. Anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. That is 843-790-3377 here on this Monday, April 17th, 2023. Was a horrid weekend to be a slapdick on Twitter. That is for sure. Had a lot of fun with Gamecock burners and Gamecock fans and all of those in general that were just talking nonsense. So, yeah. We had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun on the Bird app this weekend. Back to the point of defense, right? Will from Dirty Myrtle brought this up. And guys, let me read off these stats really quickly. South Carolina, and this is through yesterday, the Yardcocks are fielding 969 on the season through 36 games. That is third worst in the SEC. South Carolina has committed 39 errors on the season, which is second worst in the league. Only Mississippi State has committed more at 51. Just above you is Missouri at 37. Interestingly enough, Florida down there at the bottom with you, fielding 974 with 34 errors. If there's one thing we found out over the weekend that needs to be corrected, that hadn't showed itself really truly to this point because you had been winning every series you played, but if there's one thing that needs to be an area of focus and has to be fixed, it's the defense, because it's going to be really, really tough to make any sort of run and to win anything of significance if your defense is a liability. We think back to 2010, 2011, 2012. Great defense was a characteristic of those national championship teams, and it's something that has to be corrected. 5 more errors over the weekend against Vanderbilt. It's just not a recipe to going on the road and beating a top 5 team. It's not a recipe to playing good baseball, and it takes good baseball to win these SEC series against some of the best teams in all of college baseball. Guys, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into our first break of the day. On the other side, I want to continue to hear from you. More your questions, your comments, your calls, and more. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. All right, guys, are back. Taking the questions, comments, calls, 843-790-3377. Let's get back into them. We'll scroll back up and get to some of your questions. We've had calls nonstop, phone ringing off the hook since we started. Hey, I appreciate that. Y'all keep it coming. Let me first remind you, of course, the TSUS Spring Tour continues this week. Thursday, we will be in Fort Mill, South Carolina. Looking forward to it, hanging with all my Fort Mill Gamecocks. Also, Yardcocks take on Florida that night. And the game's on ESPNU, so we'll be watching that game. It'll serve as a tour event and a watch party, right? Game gets going at 7:30. In the meantime, before that, everything gets going on our end at 6. We will do a little bit of a Q&A, talk some Yardcocks, talk football, what have you. Going to be a good time. Also, guys, excited to announce on the TDC side of things, starting next week, in case you missed this, Mark Rogers, the voice of college football, he will join the show every single Monday, 1:15 to 1:45. Looking forward to it, talking college football every Monday with Mark. Going to be an absolute blast. That being said, let's jump back to the phone lines.
Call from
Justin.
Justin, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
How you doing, Chris? Still okay, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic on this Monday. How are you?
Good. Hey, Chris, how was your Easter?
My Easter was great. Spent time with family and watched the Masters and had a good time. So it was really good.
Yeah, I did too, Chris. We saw Mario, Super Mario movie. It was pretty good.
You saw the Super Mario movie. Okay.
Yeah, hey, Chris, you saw it yet?
I have not.
Yeah, it's good. It was pretty funny too.
Nice. I'll have to go check it out.
Oh yeah, and Chris, I was at the spring game on Saturday. I saw Spence Webb. He didn't do too much last Saturday.
So you did go to the spring game. You were there. Love to hear that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I would say this.
Yeah.
I thought Spencer Rattler, again, you got to go into a spring game and have real expectations and understand what it is that you are watching, if you will. I mean, I thought Spencer Rattler looked fine. I thought he looked crisp. I thought he looked efficient. It was a very ho-hum type of spring game. I mean, nothing really popped off. There was the one connection between he and Juice Wells, and I think you'll be seeing that a ton, obviously, this season. But, I mean, nothing really stood out, which is fine. He's QB1. I think he's poised for a good year. I don't have any concerns in regards to what I saw from him in the spring game necessarily. So.
Oh yeah, me too, Chris. Hey, Chris, like I said, John Luggins, he's not gonna show you everything, right, Chris?
Oh yeah, I mean, you probably saw. I was going to say 10% of the playbook, but that might even be too courteous. So, I mean, he said they were going to keep it very vanilla, nothing too crazy. Yeah, man. I mean, again, it's a spring game. It doesn't count. They're not calling everything. He doesn't have his best 5-0 lineman up front. You don't have all your starters on one side. So, again, I thought Spencer Rattler looked fine. I thought he made some good throws. Missed a couple, sure, but I think that's something that'll be corrected in regards to, like, especially like him and Eddie Lewis, for example, just getting more chemistry, right? More reps together over the summer and fall camp. And I think Spencer Rattler will be fine. I think he'll be completely fine.
Yeah, and Chris, I think he'll be fine too. And, Chris, that's what I think. Stockton going to hit treasure point, and they need that one little piece, right, Chris?
Yeah, and I think you're going to see Shane Bieber and company be very active in the transfer portal. Again, running back, edge, those are the two primary positions. And, I posed this question on the podcast today, what are your greatest concerns or biggest question marks going into the quote-unquote off-season, the summer, if you will? And I think it's still running back and edge. I really do. I think run game on the offensive side and pass rush on the defensive side. I know Brian Thomas Jr. obviously flashed. Elijah Davis had a great day as well on the inside. He can play outside as well, Shane Bieber mentioned. But, I think continuing to bolster those two positions, I think those are your greatest concerns right now. I look on the defensive side. I thought linebacker showed some promise with, guys like Bam Martin Scott, Jerron Willis, Stone Blanton, Pup Howard, Mo Kaba is going to return. I think the secondary at this point we all sort of expect is going to be a strength because of what Torian Gray has done. I thought O'Donnell Fortune showed some good things. Jelon Kilgore looks like he could be a big-time player. The back end with Eamon Warrior and DQ Smith, I think it's one of the best in the SEC. And then again, offensively, the big question there will be who's wide receiver 2, but you're going to have plenty of options, right? You've got your tight end room with Trey Knox, Joshua Simon. Outside of Juice Wells, you got guys like Xavier Legette, Amarian Brown, DeCarrion Joyner can slide out there if needed. And then in the quarterback position, you got Spencer Rattler. And it's really hard to evaluate the offensive line in a spring game, but we all know that, the rushing attack is going to be, I think, the question mark going in this season because we feel pretty good about what you can do through the air. So, all in all, to your point, in the portal, running back, edge, I think they will be active there, and I think they do need to be active. Other than that, I think you feel like you're in a pretty good spot from a roster standpoint.
Oh, yeah, I agree, Chris. And Chris, that's a lot of good players in transfer for you. And Chris, I'm not saying you're going to get the white ones, but you got to try to get the white people. And it's going to take a long way to get the big players,
Well, yeah, I mean, again, it's Beamer has already shown, right? He's going to be active in the portal. I would expect more of the same, no doubt. I would expect more of the same. So I think we're in a good position, and, we'll see who they can get. But, yeah, I think that, I think you'll see them be active and add some guys.
Oh, yeah, and Chris, I got here, man, about soccer and baseball. Listen, we know Vandy's a good baseball team, and Chris, they got to show bullpen. That's hard to deal with,
Yeah, I mean, Vandy's a really good baseball team. They're ranked in the top 5. So give them their credit for sure. That they're really, really good. And, if you don't play really, really solid, fundamentally sound baseball, I talked about this going in the weekend, they're going to hurt you. And you didn't. You didn't play well enough defensively to win, and it cost you. So, the Gamecocks, I think what you saw, they went 2-2 last week. The Gamecocks don't even move in the top 25, the D1 baseball top 25, because I think it's more of a you've got so much respect for Vandy and who they are. South Carolina losing 2 of 3. I don't think there's any reason really to move them. So, Vandy's the 4th ranked team in the country for a reason. And now, hey, you get another opportunity, right? You got the 3rd ranked team in the country coming to your home field, time to bounce back and prove once again that you are one of the elites. And I think South Carolina can do that. We'll see if they do, but I think they can do that for sure.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Chris, like I said, man, the SC's a tough baseball game. Looks good. You're not going to sweep everybody, right, Chris?
No, you're not going to sweep Vandy, my guy. You were gonna lose. You were going to lose a SEC series. Like, it's just going to happen, right? You're going to lose. In baseball, you're going to lose. I don't know how people aren't able to grasp that, because what I saw on social media this weekend, I mean, you'd have thought the sky was falling. People on Twitter, I know Gamecock burners are, I don't know how many brain cells there are combined with the group, but either way, it's baseball, man. You're going to lose 2 or 3 sometimes. It happens, whatever. Just don't let it become a trend. That's it. So I think we'll be fine. We're a good ball club that had a bad weekend. That's the best way to phrase it. We're a good ball club that had a bad weekend, and we'll bounce back like a good ball club does. We'll play our best baseball, and I think, we'll get it going once again.
Oh, yeah. And Chris, like I said, like a Larry Braves. I love Larry Braves, Chris, but let me say, man, they're not scoop everybody baseball, right, Chris?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. No, we'll be fine, my guy. We'll be fine.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Chris, have you been keeping up with Larry Braves lately?
I have not kept up with the Braves all that much. I think they're like 12-4. I haven't watched a ton of their games, but I know they're playing the Padres tonight. So I think Fried's coming back from the injury list or what have you. So no, yeah, I can't sit here and tell you I watch a ton of Braves games though.
Yeah, and Chris, I'm a big Braves fan. I hope we get somebody back because it's no fun when you miss a key player,
Yeah, no, you need your guys. But the fact they've been able to win to the level that they have without those guys is really impressive.
Oh, yeah. I just hope the Braves keep doing what they do, Chris. Hopefully get back to the World Series again,
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. I think they're primed for it, no doubt.
Yeah, well, Chris, that's all I said, man.
Justin, you're the man. I appreciate it. Glad y'all had a great weekend.
You too, Chris. Go Gamecock.
Yeah, man. Take care. Great stuff from Justin. Again, let me get back into your questions. We got tons of comments coming in. I don't know if this is a Clem Sucks fan, but Tanner Gibson says your quarterback is horrible. I mean, I don't think Spencer Rattler's horrible. I don't think many people think he's horrible. Brian Dean, Chris, do you think we get a running back in the transfer portal? I'd be shocked if we don't get one in the transfer portal. Chad Goblin, Chris, I wish they would have had most of the O-line together on the same team. Cannot tell if sacks were more about guys not playing together at practice. Also think we saw more across the middle and deep balls. than last year. Yeah, I will say again, for that to be a vanilla play calling, I actually thought we were somewhat aggressive. That surprised me a little bit. So let's see. John Gibbs, Beamer and friends need to land a stud at running back to the portal, and next year recruiting, and we're going to be set. I mean, what does Dontavius Braswell do, John? I think that's a big question, but no, I agree with you. Addressing the running back position is something that that needs to happen for sure. I want to look up. Let's see. Hold on, let me look this up. Where is it? Here we go. This will be funny. So I don't think Marshawn Lloyd even had a carry in Southern Cal's spring game. He had one catch for 24 yards. Did not have a carry. One catch for 24 yards. Did not have a carry. So how about that? I was just really curious what he did over the weekend. Ethan says, Euron Peters has the season record with 29 home runs. I mean, I think it's in reach. I think it's in reach for Ethan Petrie for sure. I think it's definitely within reach, if you will. Guys, let me pose this question to you. And maybe this is feeding into too much of the spring game overreactions or the hot takes, but, I just simply asked the question. From what you saw on Saturday night, does your opinion of this Gamecocks football team going in the 2023 season, like what you think this season or what you thought this season was going to be, does it change your opinion at all? Has your opinion changed based off of what you saw on Saturday night? Because for me, it does not. It does not. I think the issues that I thought we had, I still think we have them. The challenges that we will face, I still think we are facing them. And the optimism that I had going in this season, I'm still very optimistic. So again, I pose to you, has your opinion of this South Carolina football team changed going into the season for better or for worse based off what you saw on Saturday night? Again, I feel the same. I really do. I feel the same. Austin Greer says, if you have a different opinion because of a scrimmage 6 months before the season, you're a weirdo. Bruin Nation says, Chris, by the way, thanks for costing us the series this weekend. Nice going. Bruin Nation, I know you're joking, but I will make this point, Bruin Nation, here on these airwaves. And I'll tell you this, and I said on the podcast, I will not apologize for being cocky, being a fan of a team that is 30-6 and ranked 6th in the country. Bruin Nation, if I cannot be cocky and talk shit when my team is that good, is this good as we are right now, I don't even want to be a fan anymore, Bruin Nation, because what's the point? What is the other option? Are we supposed to be scared, asshole this tight, tail tucked between our legs the entire season, just terrified of saying the wrong thing until we finally win the national championship, and then we can finally exhale? Like, absolutely not. Like, no thank you. If that's what fandom is, then you know what? To hell with it. I don't really want to be a fan. That's not what fandom is. That's not what fandom is. So if you want to be a scared little bitch on social media, you can't talk any sort of shit, then so be it. But you know what, guys? I'll tell you this. I'm not the one swinging the bat. I'm not the one throwing the pitch. I'm not the one fielding the baseball. I'm not the one that lost the ball game. Nothing I tweet, nothing I say has anything to do with what South Carolina does on the field. It's so funny. The same people that say that, who act as if my tweets directly affect the team, they're also ones that a lot of the time say that TSUS is irrelevant, doesn't matter. Well, like, which one is it? Am I the god of Gamecocks athletics, or am I irrelevant? Because some people tend to think that my tweets literally have power over the final result. And guys, if that were the case, I would make us win every game, because winning is really good for business. It's great for business, actually. So, anyways, that's my 2 cents on that. That's my 2 cents. Chad Goblin says, Chris, someone who played baseball, fans being cocky never hurts the team. I mean, dude, yeah. I mean, it's yeah. Cody Gaskin says, I'm going to start blaming Chris for everything that happens in my life and related to Carolina sports. Cody, go right ahead. Go right ahead, my guy. I think everybody in the Big Cock Club Discord would agree, Cody, slapdick tendencies would not be something new for you, my friend. So, Frank says, didn't watch the game after the second play was a swing pass for a loss of yardage. Come on, man. 138 days till football. Yeah. Dude, that's hilarious. That's so funny. My guy Tucker, what's going on, Tuck? My Rippers down there in Savannah. He says the fans really need to push to play an FCS team next spring like Shane wants to do. That would be such a better judge of how good our football team is. I mean, I'm down. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it. John Eber, maybe when McGillis comes back, put him at second, Braswell at third, Lee Croy at DH. Your thoughts? I mean, I think that's fair. I could definitely see that happening. I think that could work out well for you. I think you want to keep Braswell in the lineup for sure. Let me get back into your questions. Brewer Nation said, Doty's a hell of an athlete. He was a wide receiver before coming QB1 at Myrtle Beach. I wish he would take on that role because he is a great athlete. Maybe he will. I mean, I feel like Luke Doty's a guy who will do whatever they ask him to do to help the football team. I would think. We got a long comment. I want to read it, though. Lee Hopkins says, here's my takeaway from the spring game yesterday. Spencer Rattler looked crisp and very comfortable throwing the ball. Juice Wells was his normal, getting open and catching the ball. Dak Joyner actually looks pretty good at running back. Trey Knox looks really good at tight end. Soft hands and good blocking. Marquis Anderson and Nick Gargiulo look good on the offensive line. Lenore Sellers looked as good as Spencer to me. He's very explosive, going to hurt a lot of people's feelings in the future. On the defensive side, Pup Howard, Jelon Kilgore, are impressive and physically don't look like freshmen. Elijah Davis is an absolute stud on the line. Nick Imawari, O'Donnell Fortune, DQ Smith, Jelon Kilgore pinned down a very talented back end of the defense. All in all, great practice for the young guys. I think if they can pick up a running back and a few experienced linemen in the portal, it would be a special year. Very nice. Well done. Well done there. Maybe love the run by DK when he ran over the defender and got another 3 yards. Yeah, he looked good. I mean, listen, DeCarrion Joyner flash, no doubt. DeCarrion Joyner flash. I like what he did at running back. I still don't think I look at him as RB1. I don't look at him as like an every down back, but I think he can help you there. No question. I think he can help you there. Scotty Johnson said, I think we're going to be a real problem for the East this year. I think we're going to be solid for sure. I think we're going to give some teams some headaches, no doubt. Let's jump back to the phone lines here.
Call from
Dalton.
Dalton, what's up, man? How are you?
Hey, man, I'd like to go ahead and steer this conversation off the spring game, if that's all right.
I know you're a huge spring game guy, so I know that's tough for you to do, so I respect it. Yeah, let's go ahead.
Yeah, well, my question to you is about the baseball team specifically. And, I mean, you look at this series for us. This was a big series going into it on the road, obviously. In the SEC, it's hard to win on the road in pretty much every sport. Baseball is no different. But, I mean, what do you think about the bats just kind of going cold for, 2 whole games? I mean, this whole home run or bust thing, I talked about, before the season started, and it just seems like this is what we are, right? Either we're just hitting bombs out of the park, getting 5, 6, 7 runs an inning, multiple innings, or we're not getting any hits and we're just, striking out every time. Do you think that this will be a productive way to make a run in the postseason? Obviously, we have talented hitters, but the problem I see is if we go cold like we have, it's going to be a huge issue as far as, if we will be able to make our goal of getting to Omaha.
Well, Dalton, let me take you back to a time that was the mid to late 2000s, right? 06, 07, when guys like Justin Smoke, Reese Havens, James Darnell, Phil Disher, Robbie Grindstaff, the list goes on and on and on of power hitters that graced the lineup. Murderers Row, if you will. Drew Crisp, friend of the show, definitely want to shout him out as well. He was part of it. But the Murderers Row lineups, right? Those teams never got to Omaha. Some of the best swinging teams in school history, right? I mean, we're talking about Justin Smoke and Ethan Petrie surpassing his freshman home run record, right? And I'm not saying the 2023 Gamecocks are the newest version of those teams, which wouldn't even be wouldn't even be a slight because those teams, again, are some of the most talented to ever take the field. But why did those teams not get to Omaha? Well, in my humble opinion, I mean, number one, they did lack pitching depth. Let's go ahead and throw that out there. But as the pitching gets better, you're right, Dalton. And one of the things I talked about going in the weekend was productivity over power. We know we can hit the home run. But as the pitching gets better, it's going to become tougher and tougher and tougher to hit homers and to rely on homers. So you better have a second pitch. You better have something else in your arsenal. And I'm not taking 2 games and saying that this team does not have it, because I think we've been much more productive throughout this season. We've done a much better job. I think we'd all agree. But yeah, to your point, you can't solely rely on power, because Vanderbilt's pitching staff, I mean, they've got tons of high quality arms. They're going to locate a lot of movement on the pitches, right? There's a reason they're so good. It's just going to become more and more and more difficult to hit home runs. So you got to be able to be productive even when the power's not there. And so, people ask me again, back in the conversation, is this an Omaha caliber team? This is an Omaha caliber team, for sure. For sure. But if you're not able to be productive against high quality pitching, it's going to cost you. And you may see yourself eliminated before you'd like to be, right? So I think moving forward, I think they're going to be fine. Listen, we're a good ball club, had a bad weekend. As long as it doesn't become a negative trend, that's the thing you want to avoid for sure. We're going to be fine, but that'll be the question, right, Dalton, in the postseason. That'll be the question. We've got the talent, but is this team able to stay consistent at the plate and just not solely rely on power? That will really, truly, if you can give me the answer to that question, I can give you the answer to whether this team will be in Omaha or not.
And then another thing, obviously, is the defensive errors. I mean, yeah. I don't know what it is about, our second and or our third baseman and our shortstop, but it just seems like whenever, we're in a jam, we've got traffic on the base paths, like we're just unable to make a simple throw over to first. We're unable to, handle a ground ball, and it leads to, one or multiple runs, scoring. And I'm just wondering if you think that that'll be improved going forward in the season, or if we'll just have to sort of accept that our infield defense is going to be somewhat of a liability, and we're going to need kind of like a cushion a lot of the time in order to, overcome that issue.
Well, being a porous team defensively, for sure, Dalton, I mean, it is another surefire way to not maximize this team's potential, right? I mean, and that's the thing, too, man. You look over the weekend, by the way, I said 5 errors for the weekend. I actually think it was 6, and I'm pretty sure that Talmadge LeCroy himself had 5. So I do apologize. I think it was actually more than 5. I think it was 6 errors you had on the weekend. But you make that many errors in a weekend against a team the quality of Andy, you can't give a team like that more and more and more opportunities. I mean, think about us, right? Think about it the reverse. If a team is making errors and giving this Gamecocks lineup more outs, giving them extra outs in an inning, we're going to make them pay, right? We've got enough quality hitters where we're going to make them pay. So you just can't do that against a quality ball club. And they know that, right? Hey, you were playing on the turf. Does it make a difference? I don't know. No excuse, though. There's no excuse. And the frustrating thing is this. Most of the time, Dalton, the errors are mental because they're not physical mistakes. You've made these plays before. They're mental mistakes. And I think when you're on the road against a top 5 team and things start speeding up a little bit and moving a little bit quicker, maybe you do some things that are uncharacteristic. And so sailing a ball over a guy's head or throwing it in the dirt or just booting a ball, those are things that are not really, those are uncharacteristic of your team. So, it's just one of those things. As long as you can identify it and get it corrected, I think you'll be fine. But certainly you need to see this team play cleaner on the defensive side.
And then the last thing I sort of want to talk about is Noah Hall and sort of his, availability. Obviously, a lot of people have heard the rumor that Noah Hall will be out. How much of an impact do you think that has on the season going forward? Obviously, I know we have a lot of depth in the pitching staff, and I thought Matthew Becker did an incredibly good job against this Vanderbilt lineup, even when he got into some jams. But I'm just wondering, Noah Hall was one of, our best pitchers. And if we're not even going to have him available out of the bullpen in short, like short relief, type of roles, what kind of impact does that have on our pitching staff moving forward as far as our rotation in the postseason?
Yeah, well, listen, and I've said this plenty of times that South Carolina has the pitching depth to overcome it, but it's a big loss, man. I mean, you take away anybody in the SEC Saturday guy, and they're going to feel some type of impact from that. I agree with you. I thought Matthew Becker pitched well yesterday, well enough to win. I mean, you think about what you normally get from a Sunday guy. On Sundays, you're normally going to have to score more runs, right? Because the third best starter, normally both teams are going to swing the bat pretty well. So, I thought Becker did a good job. And again, you've got the pitching depth to withstand it, but certainly, I mean, it's going to be a blow, man. It's going to be a blow, especially right now. You look, for whatever reason, Will Sanders nor Jack Mahoney can give you more than 5 innings. Like, I don't know what's going on, why that's the case. And hopefully they get it going, but it just definitely does. It puts more pressure on those guys. Like, Will Sanders got to be better, man. And I know that he got the win. No big deal. I mean, we scored 14 runs, but I'm just saying moving forward through the long haul, like it puts even more pressure on your game one guy to be an ace. It puts more pressure on a Jack Mahoney in game 2 to pitch well, especially when you win game 1 and you've got an opportunity to win the series. And I'm not putting, obviously, that loss on Saturday on him, but you get what I'm saying, right? It puts more pressure on those guys. And, I mean, you feel good about whether it's Becker the rest of the way or Eli Jones or it's James Hicks or it's Eli Jersemek, whoever it is, you're going to have a quality starter going in game 3, but to insinuate that it has no impact, I think that would be foolish, right? So, we'll see. I mean, hopefully Noah Hall will come back, but as I know you already know, Dalton, we've heard the rumors from multiple people that there's a good chance he's out for the entire season. So, and if he's not, even if he's not, it's going to be a multi-week thing. I mean, it's going to be quite a while. At this point, I just hope to get him back for Hoover, the postseason, what have you. So it's a big loss. I think it's one this team can withstand, but it definitely puts a lot more pressure on the guys that you do have available.
And then finally, going to Florida, sort of how do you feel? Do you think we'll be able to have sort of a bounce back weekend at home against Florida and take 2 out of 3? Obviously, Florida has looked, like they have struggled sometimes, as we have. Every team has struggled sometimes, but Florida is obviously a very quality team. So what do you think? Do you give us a good shot of winning that series, or do you think we're going to sort of lose 2 out of 3? Because I don't really worry about us getting swept, but I do think, it would be a great bounce back weekend at home to take 2 out of 3 against Florida.
I give us a good shot to win it. I think it'll be another great SEC weekend. I mean, I think obviously what's interesting is Florida's right behind you in regards to errors and stuff like that. And we all know, too, those of us who have kept up with it, man, Florida's bullpen has just been a nightmare. They've been terrible. So, I think at home, Dalton, I mean, that's the key, right? You go on the road, like nobody, listen, in the grand scheme of things, nobody's going to write you off because you went to Vanderbilt in Nashville and lost 2 of 3, right? It's hard to go on the road and win a series in the SEC, especially over a top 5 team. But with that being said, you got to protect your home field, right? And so you feel good coming back to the friendly confines, coming back to Founders. Florida is a very, very good baseball team. I know Brendan and I have had some fun exchanges back and forth. I'm not saying that they're even better than South Carolina. I'm not saying they're going to win the national championship, but they're a good baseball team. They're high quality. There's a reason they're ranked 3rd in the country. We'll break them down more to the specifics as we get later in the week, but Jack Caglione's obviously a guy that, you look at he's going to pitch game 3. I mean, he's going to be a lethal bat all weekend, but I think South Carolina, I think this could be a really, really fun weekend in regards to home runs and runs scored and all that. But with that being said, I do think South Carolina, I think you feel good about it. Again, I think this is a really, really good baseball team, a really good ball club that had a bad weekend. I don't think we're all of a sudden a bad team or anything. So, yeah, I mean, I'm confident. I'm optimistic. I'm not trying to lock in my prediction early or anything, but I think the Gamecocks, I still think you're confident going into this weekend, getting the Gators at home. It's going to be a great weekend of baseball, and I think you feel confident against South Carolina can bounce back at home and take 2 of 3.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'll be there on a Friday night. I've got class on Thursday, but I'm hoping, we sort of lock it up Thursday and Friday, and then Saturday is sort of a gimme if, win the sweep. If you lose, obviously you don't want to, try and lose or throw it, but
Right.
if you lose, it's not that big of a deal. Winning the first two would be huge, and I'm looking forward to being there. So, but I appreciate you taking my call and all that, and you have a good Monday.
Dalton, you're the man. I appreciate the call. Great stuff as always. Great stuff from our friend Dalton. Guys, let's go ahead and jump into another break. On the side, I want to continue to hear from you, more of your questions, your comments, your calls, and more. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. All right, guys, we're back. Taking the questions, comments, calls. 843-790-3377. That is 843-790-3377 here on this Monday, April 17th, 2023. Let's get back into your comments. We'll start. Coach Ford says, Dak is a more physical runner than I thought. He's not an SEC running back, but he's a very serviceable running back. He should have been there 4 years ago. Unfortunately, he is RB1. We need Braswell to get down here and show out. Sellers is clearly, in all caps, the number 2. It's time to move Doty to wide receiver and let the practice reps go to Sellers and Davis and Reno coming in next year. O-line looks bad. If the O-line improves, we may be okay. If not, I will say 7 wins is max. Again, Coach Ford, I mean, the comments are fine. The only thing I'd say to the offensive line, though, I mean, you know as well as I do, you didn't have your best 5 out there. Like, we know that. Jalen Nichols goes out early, and then who was I think it was Ja'Kai Moore that didn't even play in the game, right? He had family stuff going on. So you never at any point had your best 5 on the field all together. And so I know you, Coach Ford, would agree. That is a position where continuity is so important, and having those 5 guys gelling and what have you, it's just so important. It's just so important. So I don't draw any conclusions from the O-line. I mean, do I think they're going to be some huge strength and we're going to run for 200 a game? No, I don't think so. But I don't leave that game saying the offensive line is just an atrocity. They're terrible. So, yeah, I think we'll be fine. Heath Hagler says, I think the last 2 weeks have definitely shown how much we need Noah Hall back. It's not a jab at Mahoney. He's done really well, but just not having that Saturday arm forces us deeper in the bullpen early. I would agree with you. I mean, listen, you start losing guys, you've got pitching depth, but I mean, you'd love to have Noah Hall back. There's no question. You've loved to have Noah Hall back. Reason we lost is the turf. I hear you. Ethan says you're going to lose a series or 2 in baseball. It happens. Even if we lost the Florida series 1-2, I still think we're a top 8 team. With Noah Hall, we should have won game 2, and we are fine. Cody Gaskins, it's crazy to think Juice never had a touchdown reception in Willie B. Crazy. Remember, R26, Brian Thomas Jr. has improved. He looks promising. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I did not see that coming. He looked really good. Austin Greer says Vandy is better than LSU. I think that's debatable, no doubt. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair debate, actually. James Kendall, for depth purposes, you need to add another running back. Can't be in a position where DK gets a hammy and then you're relying on a freshman. Again, I totally agree with you, James. I think it's a no-brainer. You have to add a guy. Coach Ford, hard to evaluate the D when the O-line was so bad. I mean, again, Coach Ford, that's where you're going to drive yourself crazy, right? I mean, just is Brian Thomas Jr. that good, or our edges that good, or is the O-line that bad, the guys they were going up against? Who knows? Coach Ford says, we'll see when we get the 5 out there. As of today, it has me worried. I mean, I think it makes sense, Coach Ford, to be slightly worried because you lost Eric Douglas at center. You lost Jovan Gwynn, right? I mean, you lost some guys. No doubt. You lost some guys. So it's going to be a new 5 out there. And, I think until this great wall of Carolina crop, until they step on the field, I think it's fair to be slightly concerned about the offensive line and what they're going to do this season. No question. But I'm just saying that I'm not completely writing off the O-line after the spring game just because it's so almost damn near impossible to evaluate. Things are popping off in the Big Cock Club Discord. Cody Gaskin says he thinks that Sellers is QB2. Our guy Dalton says that's a slapdick take. Nobody can tell from one televised practice. Let's see. Yeah, so basically what they're saying is that no doubt, Sellers did have a better scrimmage, but to Dalton's point, we have no idea what the coaches are seeing in practice. Doty could have just had an off day. And I mean, that's something you definitely take into account. That's something you definitely take into account. Luke Doty may have just had an off day. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know how you watch that game and you see the other quarterbacks outside of Rattler. I don't know how you come out of that game and say, yep, Luke Doty for sure is the second best quarterback on this roster. I just don't see it because you know what? Yeah, Luke Doty's got experience, but I will take raw talent and ability a.k.a. Lenora Sellers, over a couple games of experience. You know what I mean? So he didn't look like a guy, to Big Watch's point, he didn't look like a guy who's been on campus for 3 years. He just didn't look like that. He didn't look like that. He panicked. He was very jittery in the pocket. He was not accurate. I just, you know, and it almost makes you think it's crazy to think there were people last year that said that Luke Doty should be this team's starting quarterback over Spencer Rattler. I still think back to, I forget who the lady is or was, and I'm not even trying to call her out by name. I don't know her name. But, I mean, I don't know. I didn't document this. I should have because it was actually high-key hilarious. But, dude, when we had our watch party for the Arkansas game last year in downtown Greenville, I mean, I had this lady get this close up in my face about Luke Doty should be this team's starting quarterback, and how dare you speak ill on the name of Luke Doty. And, I mean, this lady was right up in my grill yelling. She was obviously shit-faced. But, I mean, you know, the people that love Luke Doty, they are very passionate about Luke Doty. They are very passionate about Luke Doty and his abilities at the quarterback position, which is totally fine. I mean, you love to hear that. But, I mean, God, that was wild. Anyways, that's in the past. But, yeah, I'm not afraid to say it. Yeah, Southern, she had to be from Myrtle Beach. She probably was. She probably was, my guy. She probably was. I have no idea. I mean, hey, we've all been there, had too many and said things and acted out of character and just out of sorts, if you will. So I don't take it personally at all. But I was just like, man, people like these people that love Luke Doty, they love Luke Doty. And she took it personally that I said that she took it personally that I said that you know, Spencer Rattler was the team's best quarterback, if you will. Anyways, James Kendall says, Chris, would you describe Doty as becoming a positionless player? I mean, I'll say this, James. I know what you're doing, but I'll say this. I mean, did we not compare Luke Doty and Dakereon Joyner just a few weeks ago? Did I not literally make a clip and say, like, they're literally the same person? They're the same person. Granted, Luke Doty has not gone through as many position changes, but they're similar in the sense where, you know, I just don't know. I think Luke Doty, again, is more of a quarterback because he's stuck at quarterback throughout his entire career. But that's funny you bring that up, James. That is funny. I can appreciate a good joke. Homie Lamont Enjoyer, a.k.a. Dalton, says, another thing we have to consider is that the team has tweaked the offensive scheme for the third year in a row. Not saying that Doty should be for sure QB2, but creating depth charts off a spring game film is a terrible idea. And I hear you. And that's why, Dalton, I prefaced it with, this is a spring game overreaction and a hot take, right? So I'm not sitting here telling you that if Luke Doty's QB2 going in the season, that this coaching staff just doesn't have a clue. Because number one, guys, QB2 ain't going to play. He ain't going to play, right? Hardly at all. I mean, I went in the last season thinking that, Tanner Bailey and Braden Davis, they're going to see a lot of action. They're going to play. And it didn't happen. They never saw the field. So, the fact of the matter is this. I'd be surprised how many snaps for Lenora Sellers this year. Over, under 10.5. I think under. I really do. I doubt we even see Lenora Sellers this year. I'd be shocked. I was surprised to see a guy like SEC Mike saying that, he could help this football team this year. How? I mean, I'd be surprised. Maybe they'll have some packages or maybe they'll just put him, but like you have Spencer Rattler. I don't understand the whole, why would you put somebody else in? I think if all goes according to plan, the only games you probably see somebody get other guys get snaps are Furman and Jacksonville State. Maybe Vandy late, but outside of that, I don't see a ton of it. Madison, I know for a fact it was not Luke Doty's mom that got up in my face. I promise. I know for a fact it wasn't. So, anyways, that's just totally beside the point. Whatever. Hey, listen, people, things get out of hand. Emotions get out of hand when when the Gamecocks are playing, and especially when we're losing and alcohol gets flowing and the worst side of people truly comes out. I mean, really it does. So you just got to not take it personally. Anyways, guys, let me also say this, by the way. I don't know how I've gone this far in the show without saying thank you all so much for the love and support we felt during the live stream watch along on Saturday. And I'd love to hear you guys' feedback on it. I know one thing going back and watching, I was on my phone a lot, so I do apologize for that. I'm trying to actively tweet and be on social media and post clips while also watching the game and engaging and conversating. So that's something I'm going to try to work on. I am going to work on. I'm going to be more present moment and in tune with the live stream watch along. But guys, of course, you all know the content does not sleep, and getting those tweets out, getting those posts out, if you will, sometimes it does distract me. So I apologize for that. It's something I'm going to try to improve. But all in all, I thought the live stream watch along was a massive success. I had a ton of fun doing that. Coach Ford says, you can watch the instincts and mechanics and see that Sellers is far ahead of Luke Doty. It is the number 2 reps in practice that will help Sellers be ready by 2024. Maybe so. David Barnes says Sellers could take Joyner's Wildcat quarterback role if DK ends up sticking at running back. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way, though, David. LaNorris Sellers is a quarterback. He's not a Wildcat quarterback. He's not a gadget quarterback. He's a quarterback. End of story. Bottom line, he's a quarterback, right? So if he comes in, I don't think it's a Wildcat situation. He's coming in to play quarterback. He's not coming in to be a Wildcat. He's not a guy where if he throws, it's a surprise. He is a quarterback. Bottom line in the story, until we hear differently. Let's see. Dalton says, the thing with Doty, though, he's been put in a terrible position to succeed his entire career. He has to work through 2 different head coaches, a foot injury, multiple offensive coordinators. Dalton, doesn't that sound a lot like Dakereon Joyner? He also says, Dalton says in the Big Cock Club Discord, that being said, I do think that Luke Doty will most likely be the number 2 going in the first game next year. There isn't really a backup quarterback I have supreme confidence in. Obviously, we all hope that Rattler doesn't get injured and stays healthy all year. I mean, yeah, obviously, again, that's the big takeaway is just, Spencer Rattler's our guy. And, we all hope that we don't have to see a backup at any point. I mean, really, truly. Let's see. Let's see. It looks like College Football News re-released their win totals for the SEC. South Carolina, as we already know, at 7.5. Again, guys, continue to take your takeaways, your thoughts from the spring game, baseball, a packed weekend of action. Top takeaways from the there were. I mean, it's crazy again, guys. People say it's spring game doesn't matter. It's this or that, whatever. I mean, I had a page full of takeaways. So, one of the things, guys, that I posed the question on the podcast this morning, then I'll ask you all. It's interesting, right? Spring game in the book. Spring football is behind us. The transfer portal is what we're keeping our eye on. But outside of that, there is no football until on the field, not till fall camp. We got SEC Media Days upcoming, but there is no football, right? So I ask you this, going into the quote-unquote off season, the summer, what is the biggest question mark for this football team, offensively and defensively? And I think we're all going to have the same answer. I mean, for me, offensively, it's running back and running game. I think another really intriguing question, though, is who is wide receiver 2? You saw Eddie Lewis targeted a lot, the transfer portal player from Memphis, right? You saw Lewis targeted a ton. Does that mean he's wide receiver 2? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know. You've also got Xavier Legette, Amarian Brown, Dakereon Joyner, who can slide out there. But you lost 4 of your top 5 pass catchers from a season ago. And I know the tight end position is going to help alleviate any of these concerns. And also the addition of Nicholas Harbor is going to help alleviate those concerns. But I think the battle at wide receiver 2, that's going to be one of those intriguing storylines to follow as we go throughout fall camp. And I think is one of the biggest question marks going into the season because Juice Wells is going to need help, right? Every single defensive coordinator is going to have Juice Wells circled as the guy they've got to stop. So who is it that steps up outside of him and takes off some of that pressure? Is it Legette? Is it Brown? Is it Trey Knox at tight end? Is it Joshua Simon? Who is the go-to guy besides Juice Wells on this offense? And who is wide receiver 2 specifically? That's a big question mark, I think, and something that needs to be solved, and I think will be solved going into the summer, fall camp, and, of course, the 2023 season. On the defensive side, for me, guys, my biggest question mark and greatest concern going in the summer, it is the edge position. Again, I know Brian Thomas Jr. shined, but, you know, how do I want to phrase this? I don't even mean to I don't mean to say this as, you know, I just don't know. Even with a big spring game performance, I just don't know. Kid was a 3-star recruit coming out of high school. I mean, his offers, guys, were Carolina, then Central Michigan, Connecticut, FIU, and Liberty, right? Is this a big-time SEC edge player? I don't know. I don't know that he is. I have no idea. Brian Thomas Jr. was a guy that I looked at that I didn't think was really ever going to play. 6'2.5", 225. You got guys like Strawn and Terrell Dawkins, the NC State transfer. Hey, maybe Brian Thomas Jr. is a nice surprise on the edge as well, but I think continuing to beef up the defensive front and beef up the edge position. We liked what we saw from Elijah Davis. Tonka Hemingway did not play in the spring game. I don't even know if Boogie Huntley played. I didn't hardly even see him. Continuing to beef up the front seven, though, I think is a very, very big deal and something I think is a big question mark for this football team moving forward. Lynn Turner, Leggett had some big catches last year, needs to step up for sure. For sure. He absolutely does. Just needs to be more consistent. I mean, he showed his ability, but he just needs to be more consistent and eliminate the drops. I think that's the big thing. Needs to eliminate those drops. So. Let's see. It looks like Vandy transfer Miles Stute will announce his transfer destination at 2 o'clock Eastern time. 2 o'clock Eastern time. So, and that is on the basketball side of things. Lamont Paris is cooking. That would be a big time addition for sure. Let Lamont cook. Let him cook. Again, guys, 843-790-3377. That is 843-790-3377. The Gamecocks, how about this? The RPI for the Gamecocks baseball side of things, number 2 in all of college baseball. Number 2. So, how do we think Gamecock Nation, Gamecock Twitter, Gamecock social media is going to react to me saying that Luke Doty should be benched and is not quarter? People are going to go crazy. I know it. Oh, well, it is what it is. Beauty's in the banter. Coach Ford says disappointed in the development of Landon Sampson. And I don't know if my guy is still tuned in, but he called me and said the same thing. Yeah, I don't know. I thought Landon Sampson would be probably a bigger piece of the offense too at this point, but it didn't show a lot in the spring game. It makes me very confident he'll see much of the field this year. So, Jeff Gullidge says, in all honesty, as long as QB1 stays healthy and plays like he did at the end of last year, I don't care who QB2 is. That's a good point. Coach Ford says he should not be benched. He needs to use his athleticism at wide receiver. Well, Coach Ford, yeah, they got to move him out there first. I mean, I feel like Luke Doty's a guy that will do whatever is necessary to help the Gamecocks football team. But I don't know. I don't know. Let's see. John Edward, looking forward to seeing you Thursday in Fort Mill, my friend. Going to be a lot of fun. Fort Mill is always a good time. Fort Mill is always a good time. I mean, Bruin Nation said the same thing. Doty's a hell of an athlete, though. Kid needs to be on the field. He's a good wide receiver slot guy, for sure. Ethan said, my quarterback depth chart rankings. Rattler 1, Sellers 2, Doty 3, Bailey 4, Gauthier 5, and Braden Davis at 6. Braden Davis at 6. Ethan, if that's the case, he's got to be gone. I mean, he's got to be gone. He's got to be gone. Let's see. Anthony says Sellers is the future. Just needs to sit in the pocket and not get happy feet so much. But that's just experience. He's going to be a Connor Shaw type of quarterback. Stephanie Lee said Sellers really impressed me. Yeah, I think, and you know, the spring game is built for a guy. It's built for guys like Lenora Sellers. It's built for your young guys to get out on the field, get experience, and just really show what they can do. Right? That's what it's for. I mean, that's what it's for, no doubt. So, you know, I'm happy that Sellers was able to get out there. I mean, obviously, you know, it's funny. We went down to Somerville last week for the spring tour, and we talked about Lenora Sellers, and there were a lot of Bruin Nation at Carolina Somerville, and they were getting hype about Lenora Sellers, and I'm sure they had an absolute blast watching the spring game. So, my guy Jake Crane says overreacting about spring games is an easy way to spot a casual. I love that. I don't feel like any of our takes are overreacting. I don't. Because I mean they don't matter. They don't, guys. It's a glorified scrimmage. They don't matter. You know, I'm not saying we should write off Luke Doty for the rest of time, but I don't know, man. It's hard to tell a diehard of a team that, you know, and to the point, like what Dowell Loggins said last week, you know, it doesn't matter at all. Like anytime your team takes the field, it matters. Anytime. It matters. Madison says, are you doing a fall tour? Yeah, so it'll be a summer tour, Madison. It'll be before the football season. We'll probably start it. Last year we did late July up until kickoff. I'll probably try to start it a little bit earlier this year, probably because we didn't start it until like July the 27th, and it didn't end until the week of kickoff against Georgia State, right? So, and we ran into an issue that week with Shane Beamer's call-in show. So I'd like to end it the week prior, but it'll start probably mid to late July and run through the entire month of August. That will be our quote-unquote fall tour. It'll be a fall tour, summer tour, whatever you want to label it. But, yeah, Madison, we will plan on going back and doing this round all over again, so which will be a ton of fun. It'll be a ton of fun. I love doing the tour stuff, guys. It's a lot of fun getting on the road, selling merchandise, you know, taking questions, getting people fired up for Gamecocks athletics, no matter what event it is, and spreading the good word of TSUS. It's a lot of fun for sure. And I appreciate you guys that make it such a massive success. We always have, like I said, a ton of fun doing it. So let's see. Again, a big announcement upcoming at 2:00 from Miles Stute, the Vanderbilt transfer portal player on the basketball side of things. That would be a big pickup. It sounds like the Gamecocks, very strong chance that it will be his choice. Or, excuse me, the Gamecocks will be his choice. Sports Talk running a poll question. Spring practice is now over for Clem Sucks and the Gamecocks. Cade Klubnik will be the Tigers starting quarterback backed up by Christopher Vizina. Spencer Rattler will be the USC starter backed up by Luke Doty. Who has the better quarterback situation? If he's backed up by Luke Doty. I think that's more so what he should say. Anyways, though. How about, guys, before we jump in a break, how about the tight end position? Jaheim who? Dare I say it, the way they flipped that position after, you know, you basically lost everybody, whether it be due to graduation, due to transfer portal, due to injury, or retirement from the game of football. Your tight end room was just completely, you know, ravaged by the things I just mentioned. I think you're in a good spot. You've completely flipped that room. I think it's gone from a deficiency to one of the strengths of your football team. Guys like Trey Knox, Joshua Simon, Connor Cox, Reed McKeeska, Nick Elksness. The list goes on and on and on. I think that's going to be a massive strength, the Gamecocks football team this year. I think you're going to see Dowell Loggins use the tight ends consistently, early and often, and all those that clamor, throw it to the tight end more, coach. I think you're going to get your wish this year with the quality bodies you brought in. Guys, let's jump into one final break. On the other side, I want to continue to hear from you, more of your questions, comments, calls, and more. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. All right, guys, we're back. Final 10 minutes or so in the Daily Crow. For those of you who ever wondered, what does he do during the 5-minute breaks? Well, use the bathroom and snack. That's typically what I do. So in case you're ever wondering, I normally will scarf down a snack. Not in the first hour, but the second hour, right? I do intermittent fasting, but about we get close to 2 o'clock, I start getting pretty hungry. So sometimes right before 2, I'll throw a little snack, if you will, and munch something down during the break. Either way, though. Anyways. Madison says, shout out to the ladies softball. Nice job sweeping 24th ranked Texas A&M. Doubleheader at home this Wednesday against Charleston Southern. First game at 3 p.m. Then head to Georgia to wrap up the weekend. Yeah, congratulations to the softball team, who's now ranked, by the way, by D1softball.com. Gavin, what's the snack of choice today? Flavored almonds. What is the company again? Whatever, the almonds or whatever. Habanero barbecue is the one I have. So good, dude. So good. I like almonds, though. Yeah. Nice little snack. LSU defensive back Michael Dougherty enters the transfer portal. So the portal is off and running. Probably going to be a lot of guys. Dude, entering the portal has just become like a hot thing to do. It's crazy how many dudes enter the portal. Let's see. Jeff Gullidge says Doty will be QB2 and Sellers will be redshirted. If anyone believes different, you are kidding yourself. I mean, Jeff, you might be right. I mean, here's the thing, too, though. Sellers can play in 4 games and still get the red shirt. So, I mean, if you can play him, Jeff, wouldn't you want to see him play? And I guess the conversation around the whole QB2, Luke Doty thing, it more so goes like to next year. I mean, do we really believe that Luke Doty is going to return next year and win this starting job? I don't know. I'd be stunned. I'd be absolutely stunned if that occurred. I'd be stunned. I would be stunned. I've been wrong before, but I'd be stunned. Anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. Taking your questions, comments, calls. You can also text that number. I think we actually had a text that I forgot to read. Somebody says, I want to go ahead and give Sellers the quote, he is him. He was no doubt the second best quarterback in the spring game. That man can significantly change a game. He is the steal of the 2023 recruiting class and should have been a 5-star recruit. I've heard other people say that as well. SEC Baseball Awards, Tommy White, Player of the Week, Hurston Waldrop from Florida, Pitcher of the Week, and Dakota Jordan from Mississippi State, Freshman of the Week. So, let's see. Anyways, guys, appreciate you all tuning in. We are normal, by the way, normal schedule this week, noon to 2. I know last week was kind of crazy with the 10 to 12 stuff, and it's like I told you guys. It worked well for what it was, right? It worked well for what it was, but I'm not going off a noon to 2 anytime soon. I love the noon to 2 time slot. It works really well for my schedule. I think you guys enjoy it more so. So I don't think we're going to be budging off of noon to 2 anytime soon. But yeah, guys, normal week this week, noon to 2 all week long. We're also going to have a big time guest. My guy Pick Six Previews, I believe, is going to join me for the podcast for Thursday. That'll be a great conversation. We haven't even chatted on the podcast, on the airwaves, since the 2022 season ended, right? So looking forward to chatting with my guy, Brett Ciantia. We'll talk about the 2022 season, the spring game, look ahead to a little bit of 2023. Guys, again, of course, it's never too early to talk South Carolina football. It's always a great time to talk football. It's like I told you guys, too. I feel like last year, definitely the year prior, but last year, I was kind of like, why aren't people talking about baseball more? Why does everybody still want to talk football? And now I just think from a content side, I just embrace it, right? It's just what moves the needle. Like, we still have baseball conversation. right? I still keep the baseball combo going, right? I'd say as much, if not more than anybody else. But I mean, I just kind of lean into the football stuff at this point. Like, people love football. People want to talk football. Who am I to not give the people what they want? GA says those wasabi soy sauce almonds are insane too, bro. They're so good. They're so good, dude. GA knows what's up, man. And hey, GA, unless it ended yesterday, Publix has them right now. Buy one, get one. So GA, you might want to head over to Publix, my guy. Go stock up on some almonds, because those things are like $10 a bag too. So you can get them things, buy one, get one. You might as well. Let's see. Frank says, here's a prediction for you. Rattler sits out for the draft. Sellers starts the bowl game. Doty plays a quarter against Jackson State. LaNorris Sellers starts the bowl game. Interesting. Not outlandish, though. Just interesting. Just interesting. Guys, again, a big announcement upcoming at 2 o'clock. Miles Stute, Vanderbilt basketball transfer. Looks like he will make his decision. It sounds like it is going to be the Gamecocks indeed. So, looking forward to that. You know what I'm really surprised at? I'm surprised that, like, the ESPN FPI, or that, like, no sports book out there has dropped, like, SEC win totals. Nothing. This time, you know, this time last year we, you know, had a lot of that. I don't know what the deal is. Let's see. Frank says, mark it down. Big Wash says, it almost looks as if those tight ends were totally. Well, I mean, Nate Atkins graduated and Trey Kenyon retired due to medical reasons. So Big Wash, I don't think obviously those guys were affected by it at all. But yeah, I don't know. John Edward, in case anybody cares, this past weekend was the unfortunate anniversary of the Boston bombing marathon bombing. Wow. Okay, I did not know that, John Edward. Crazy. Frank says, mark it down, dude. I'll mark it. Consider it marked, Frank. Consider it marked. James Kendall says here on the podcast, is the deal we need to let it play to the very end? What does retention mean? Yes, great question. So James Kendall brings up, and I talked about this on the podcast today. So we've renewed our deal with Blue Wire as our podcast hosting platform. So basically, I'm always transparent with you guys, and you guys support TSUS and show love. So the podcast is now being monetized, right? And the way it's been monetized over the last year to this point is you tune in the podcast, a download, if you will. Every download, you're making X amount of dollars. You're getting monetized for that, right? Now, right, you insert the ads into the show. Let's say there's 4 ads or so. Let's say there's 3, 4. It doesn't really matter the number. Now, the way that monetization is going to be based is how many of the ads actually get played. Not even all the way through, but just does the listener reach that point of the show where the ad is, right? And so let's say somebody tunes in for 5 minutes of the show, and there's an ad at the end of the show and 35 minutes in. We're not going to get credit for that. Like, it's not going to count as a play, if you will. So that's what I mean, James, listener retention. I mean, keeping listeners listening throughout the entire show and actually playing those ads. And it doesn't matter, by the way, if you skip through the ads, it still counts for us. I'm not even telling you have to actually listen to the ads. I'm not saying you actually have to listen, but, and it's, listen, I said in the podcast today, it's on me to keep the show engaging and entertaining from start to finish. So there are things I'll be doing, you know what I'm saying? Keeping the show, keeping the yucks coming for you guys, keeping it engaging all the way through. But that's what that means, James Kendall, retention, because it's now being monetized, not just a download, right? Not just a download, which there's actually more upside because now we have more opportunities for more ads to be played. And the more the merrier in that regard, if you will. So yeah, just to keep it transparent, guys, listen all the way through. When you do listen, you can skip through the ads if you want, but just listen all the way through. Helps TSUS out tremendously. And I promise you, I'm committed to you all to making sure that there's value from start to finish, because if there isn't value, you shouldn't stay tuned in throughout the entire show. So I can promise you, from me to you, we will be pushing the value hard. And James Kendall, great question. I'm glad you bring that up. Guys, with that being said, that brings us into 2 o'clock. an electric show today. Thank you so much to everybody who called in, all the comments, everybody who engaged. And stay tuned, of course. Content bleeding out the eyeballs. Go check out the podcast that dropped this morning, episode 776. TDC drops every day at 3 o'clock. At 3 o'clock on the Spurs Up Show podcast feed. So if you missed anything or you just want to go back and listen, you can do so. iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. Guys, that being said, we're rocking and rolling all week long. Appreciate you all tuning in. Have a great rest of your Monday, and we will talk to you all tomorrow.